Well, a very good morning to you from the Nordic Ski World Championships on the first day of medal competition here in the Czech Republic. A snowy morning here as you get a view of this magnificent stadium, purpose-built for the Nordic Ski Championships. And as ever, it's Mike Dixon alongside myself, David Goldstrom, your hosts right the way through to Sunday, the 1st of March, and the last of the medal finals, which of course will be the blue-ribboned 50-kilometer freestyle marathon for men. Well, Mike, conditions today as they've been for actually the last few days. Plenty of snow, and interesting for the waxmen as we look forward in the next 10 minutes to the start of the women's 10-kilometer classic race, the first medal competition, and a journey which is said to be by a lot of the competitors pretty tough.
Pretty tough, and interestingly, Lukáš Bauer, the local hero and the overall World Cup winner last year, he was saying, well, the tracks are so tough, they're not really my cup of tea, which is a little surprising. And you can see the tracks in the distance there, undulating, some fast corners, up to 60 kilometers per hour. The athletes will be going into some of the tight corners. So in all aspects, it's as usual at major competitions, it's a good test. And the waxmen, as you said, I was in the wax cabins earlier with the British team. Al Darghi frantically waxing, doing a great job there. And of course, this new snow causing some difficulties, especially for the early starters.
Now, one or two messages. Laurent Philippot, France, not starting today. Little message, sadly, sickness. And also Charlotte Kaller not involved, although, to be fair to her, although her classic skiing has improved, freestyle is where her strength still lies. Well, if you're just joining us on this snowy Thursday morning, Mike Dixon together with myself, David Goldstrom, looking forward to the start of the women's 10-kilometer classic race. And this is the first medal competition of the championships, the Nordic Ski World Championships of 2009. The president of the organizing committee, Katarina Neumanova, probably looking forward to this as much as anyone here, because this will be a real test of the organization to see whether all the hard work that's gone in will really pay off. But first reactions here from everybody is that the organizing committee have done a really fantastic job. This is the journey for the 75 competitors from 29 countries.
Well, look at the climb there, coming up just past 1 kilometer, severe climb, and then the twisty, curvy segments down to 2, very big climb up to 3, and there's the main recovery, if you like, after 3 kilometers down to 3.75.
And I was going to say, Mike, if we're looking for favourites today, I guess we've got to look at Verpi Koitinen, Aino-Kaisa Saarinen, and also Justina Kowalczyk, because they've absolutely dominated the 10-kilometer classic season. Started off with Aino-Kaisa Saarinen. There is Katarina Neumanova, president of the organizing committee, and of course Olympic champion over 30 kilometers freestyle in Torino just a couple of years ago. Facts and figures. Actually, it felt quite chilly this morning, but now the snow's returned, Mike. It's not unpleasant.
It's the dampness. There you are, 90% humidity. So it actually out there with the ski suit on, it feels even colder than the minus 5.8.
Tricky for the servicemen and the waxmen, who must have been up since, what, 5 o'clock this morning?
5 o'clock, the first of the waxmen were here testing the bases firstly, then testing the kick wax, because, of course, that's what's going to power them forward, the grip wax pressing down. Yes, so a lot of action buzzing around here, and the waxmen have been round the track a number of times. Good to see Fiona Hughes, having qualified yesterday for Britain, having made the top 10 yesterday.
Yes, as ever, the red group, or the seeded, the racers who've got the highest level of FIS points and World Cup rankings, even though this is a World Championship, they will start at the end of the field. They obviously have an advantage because they know about everyone who's preceded them. But this is very different to World Cup. This is not about points. It's about your chance once every 2 years to become a world champion. And maybe, if you're not a world champion, a world silver medalist or a bronze medal. That would be very rewarding as well. And somebody will have to come forth and be very unhappy. It used to be the position that Kristin Stara of Norway all too often occupied, but this is going to be a competitive race for sure. And I was mentioning one or two bits of news. One other point of news from the Norwegian camp, there are some concerns over Marit Bjørgen. She had an upset stomach and stomach problems over the last weekend, and as far as we know, that's still a bit of a concern. Astrid Jacobsen, their other great star, of course, she's been out of World Cup action because of an Achilles problem, came back and absolutely annihilated Marit Bjørgen in the Norwegian Championships, but hasn't raced World Cup. They're just hoping that she can translate domestic form internationally, but it's very difficult when you've been off the track for a long time.
Well, the final preparation, and it's interesting from the athlete's point of view. In the bus as we travelled up here this morning, I sat beside the Estonian athlete, bib number 42, and her pulse, Manima, her pulse was absolutely racing in the bus as we have a look at Kowalczyk.
Was that because she was sitting next to you?
Well, clearly. No, it's interesting, you know, and I was asking her, I said, well, it looks like, from your pulse, it looks like you're nervous already. And that was 2 hours before the race starts. And that is the life of an athlete. You've spent a year, 2 years, 4 years, your lifetime preparing for this day. It's a huge moment. And then there's the skis to select, the correct kick wax to select. So there's so many different stresses that come into your day.
And I think what everybody's going to see, those of you sitting at home with us, although the grandstands are filling up rather modestly at the moment, when the athletes leave out, they're almost immediately onto a climb, and then they're into this very open meadow section. So moments away now from the start of the women's 10-kilometer individual classic race, stride and glide, and we're going to find out very shortly just how demanding this 10-kilometer test is. Mike Dixon together with myself, David Goldstrom, 75 competitors from 29 countries. The length of the lap is 5,048 meters, so they do it twice. They climb a total of 374 meters. The stiffest of the climbs, 43 meters, and the height difference between the lowest and the highest point, some 49 meters. And this is the track actually that the gentlemen will be undertaking in 24 hours time when they go out on their classic test. And it is Bo Song standing in the start gate, ready to get underway, and pushes out this 23-year-old Chinese athlete based out of Beijing, and had some experience in Ottopa last year in the World Cup, a really tough classic race. If you do well there, then that's a good indication of your ability. And already, Mike, as we see Andrea Fancy from New Zealand ready to go out, the first competitor, Bo Song, on the climb. And maybe just a recap of this journey, this 5-kilometer loop.
Well, that's right. So this is well, one of the only flat sections, the first 200, 150 meters, and then it climbs very steeply up after 300 meters round the back of the hill opposite our commentary box. And then there's a whole sequence of undulations. So I suppose in reality it's quite an easy first 1 kilometer.
Now here's someone you know very well.
Fiona Hughes, amazing, from the Yorkshire Dales Ski Club, based largely on roller skiing. It shows that you can get to a World Championships, and just qualifying yesterday. Well done to Fiona.
Yeah, just 18 years of age, and it's just worth mentioning here how impressed we are with the British youngsters. And that's not just because we're British ourselves, but you know, really we have got a very promising junior squad. This is going to be a very tall order for them, but it's a very necessary part of their education.
It is experience and just the pressures, the new pressures at a World Championships, and coping with the course profile here. It's a tough one.
Ying Kui for China, the second of their representatives to go away. And of course, a lot of these racers will be looking forward to Vancouver 2010, which is just under a year away. And just reflecting back on the British challenge, because we've got boys as well as girls here in Liberec to race, that this is an important education, not only in a racing sense, but it's to actually get used to the climate of a big multi-sport occasion.
It is, and yeah, for many teams, also the British team, to gain percentages under 13% of the winner, it's important to qualify for the Olympics with those percentages.
Jin Li for the Chinese, and just in the wings, Morgan Smythe of America, waiting to get away. So the sixth of the competitors, and as I said, Mike, I guess we're going to be looking at the business end of this race at the likes of Verpi Koitunen, who's 73 of the 76 starters, Aino Kaisa Saarinen, who's been terrific in the way that she's maintained her advantage in the World Cup. Here's Morgan Smythe for the United States of America from the North Michigan University Club, 23 years of age, lives in Vermont. And the Americans actually, in a sense, Mike, haven't made quite the progress that they thought they were going to make after the Salt Lake City Olympics. But this young woman, some reasonable form in the Junior World Championships, in which she represented the United States on 3 occasions. And there you get a really nice big shot of the stadium.
And that's right, in the Vorlaufers, the young group of local skiers who've been sent around the 5-kilometre track. They're just coming in at the end of their 5-kilometre ski, and that's fair and proper that they should press down the tracks.
1 or 2 of the later starters beginning to go through their final warm-up processes here, right in front of our commentary box. And this is Katarina Johansson from Slovakia. And in terms of age, more experience, but this is really an opportunity for her to ski in what used to be Czechoslovakia, but now, of course, the Czech Republic and Slovakia, independent countries in their own right, but it's a neighbourly journey for her. And Ukraine, another of the nations represented. Galewicz from Poland, and we're not too far from Poland here. Expect a huge number of supporters for the likes of Justyna Kowalczyk and also Adam Małysz. Justyna, who's been quietly preparing away from all the attention, having won the last 2 World Cup 10K Classics races, so in a sense she's on a hat-trick here, and she has to start as one of the favourites.
Well, the buzz around the stadium, and of course from the commentary boxes and coaches alike, they're all saying that, well, this is Kowalczyk's day. But sometimes when you come into a race like this as the absolute favourite, it can have an adverse effect. But she is strong, she does like the profile here, so it will be interesting. I think the 2 Finnish top contenders, of course, Saarinen and Koitunen, they'll push her very, very hard today.
Just started there, you saw Lee Hongju, who actually got an 11th place in the freestyle sprint in Changchun, which preceded the World Nordic Ski Championships of 2 years ago before Sapporo. And out the gate goes the Koreans. Of course, a lot of Korean attention, Mike, on the Biathlon World Championships in their 2nd week.
Absolutely, down in Pyeongchang. And the Korean team, not strong in terms of international performance in biathlon, but they're staging an incredibly good event. They have difficulties with the weather, but they managed to get around that with man-made snow.
And you just saw Boson up the first climb, wearing 13, hopefully not an unlucky number for Monica Gheorghi from Romania. Experienced in the sense that she's represented her country at both the World Championships in 2003, 2005, and also Pragelato. But not seen too often in the World Cup, just on a couple of occasions. Laura Vallas from the United States of America, 24th in the Sprint Classic final. That was in Sapporo in 2007. That wasn't a bad result. And perhaps the silver medal that she got in the under-23 Worlds a couple of years ago in Tarvisio, that's really her best medal performance, and that's a good signpost, but it's not necessarily a signal that you're going to go all the way to the top at the elite level.
No, it's absolutely not. And good to see the 1.8 kilometer marker here, and you can just sense the severity of this climb, absolutely dropping on the ski poles.
And we'll keep an eye on Fiona Hughes. This is quite a journey that she's embarked on here, and Mike, you'll be able to make an assessment as to her progress.
Well, that's right. At 1.85 kilometers to Fiona Hughes, she's 21 seconds behind. And quite honestly, looking at the ranking, she started third position. Actually, if she gets anywhere better than say 5 off the last position, it's still a good performance. The reality is, as serious as that, if she gets 5th from last, she will be happy. It's all new territory for Fiona Hughes.
So early days still here, 17. This is Nastasia Dubarazeva representing Belarus.
I like that at the World Championships, where of course each nation can only race 4 of their athletes, and it does give a lot of the nations we don't often see at World Cup, gives them a chance to come onto the scene, the stage with the best athletes in the world. This climb seems to go on forever, up to 1.8 kilometers and further. The climb, in fact, goes all the way on up past 2.2 kilometers.
And Katarina Johansson of Slovakia just been surpassed by Li Hongzhu. She's the young woman I mentioned who got that 10th place or 11th place out in Changchun, up the first climb in 3 minutes 45. And just waiting, we're getting some advanced times before they come to the official checkpoints, but as I said, it is a long journey this, with all the favourites yet to start. Well, Mike, you had a look at the start list before the race begun. As I said, Koitunen, Saarinen, they've got to be up there with Kowalczyk. Anybody else you think that might go well?
Do you know, the amazing thing with the World Championships, you get some athletes who have this focus for this one particular day. So some surprise performances. I think Petra Madic could bring something special to the competition today. She starts bib 70. And Therese Johaug, we saw her come to prominence 2 years ago at the World Championships.
Well, just thinking about one or two who we might look for a good performance. I think it'll be very interesting to see how the Russians perform here. One or two very interesting competitors. Tatiana Zhambaeva, who won the Marathon World Cup, and our Russian colleagues are pretty sweet on her chances, but so often, Mike, we've seen it happen that the servicemen don't get it right. But if they do get it right with the waxing and preparation, then that'll be interesting. And also Olga Tiagai, who was double under-23 world champion last year, and being coached by Yulia Chapalova's dad. And I think she has probably got the best chance of the Russians today.
Yeah, some of the Russians we're more familiar with, Medvedeva and others, they haven't made the final cut. The form has dropped away, and some of the athletes outside the national team surprisingly coming through to make the big competition.
Elena Kolomina for Kazakhstan, really experienced, 28 years of age now, 4 world championships under her belt before this one, so this is number 5, and also represented her country at the last Olympic Games in Torino. Didn't actually race in the 10 Classic there. The 10 Classic won by Christina Smigren, with Marit Bjørgen in second place, and now strongly out of the gate. into the snow, and also wind here. That's been very much a factor. Mercifully this morning, just looking out of our commentary box to the right, all the international flags, it's not too stiff, but Liberec is notorious for the wind.
Yes, and in the far distance we can see over onto the city, and so we are at the high point here, but as you say, very shaded in the stadium.
Should be a decent cheer for this young woman, Eva Skalnikova from Jablonec, where the Austrian team are based up there. Well, certainly the ski jumpers are. Lives in Novo Mesto, so absolutely born and bred for this sport. Novo Mesto, of course, one of the great centres in the Czech Republic for cross-country skiing.
Well, there's a chance of 3.9 to look at Song. You can just tell fatigue is... It shouts out loud throughout her whole body, but she's dropping down through the arms, which is taking the weight off the skis, and you don't want to take your weight too much off your skis or the wax doesn't work. Really struggling out there.
Yeah, Fiona Hughes now about, just looking, she's about 25, 28 seconds behind Bo in terms of time. But as I said, it's a young team, it's a promising team, and a team which seems to have some spirit about it, Mike.
Self-belief and spirit goes an awful long way, and that absolutely from the young British team, talking to Andrew Musgrave this morning, and quietly confident, very modest about his results at Junior Worlds, with a 9th and a 12th at the Junior World Championships. It's brilliant.
Vita Yakimchuk of the Ukraine getting away there. And again, one of the more experienced racers, but if you look through the record, yet to really trouble the podium. And Natsumi up the first 1.85, and just to tell you that at the moment it's still Li Hongzhui of China up the first, well, in fact, I was going to say she's fastest, but Natsumi's just taken a huge bite out, as you can see, 11.6 seconds faster. And of course, these times are going to get considerably faster. Estonia, of course, sadly, without the services of Christina Smigan. We asked the question. In fact, I think you asked that to Tatiana this morning on the bus. What about the chances of Christina coming back for Vancouver? It's not written out and it's not written in, really.
Well, it's interesting, absolutely. So clearly it's been talked about, it's been discussed. And I would love to see her coming back for the Olympics next year. She needs to get back into racing as soon as possible.
31, Catherine Calder. Also, be very interested to see how Sarah Renner goes for Canada in this particular race. You sense, Mike, throughout the World Cup season that Sarah's really just been building to peak for this particular moment in the season.
Interestingly, and you asked earlier, some outsiders, and we know that Sarah can bring her mind, her focus onto that 1 half hour in her life, and that's what today is for a lot of these athletes, the most important half hour where they really stamp their authority, and maybe, just maybe for Canada, Renner can do that.
Just as you see, one of the Swedes going out. This is Hanna Brodin. Just a word on Britta Norgren, who has had to take an enforced rest for 5 days because her hemoglobin count was found to be a little bit over the allowed limit. It's a sort of health check, really, but it's always a worry. But to be fair to Britta, her characteristic is to have a high level.
Yeah, it is, and altitude training can enhance that level. And a lot of the athletes down in Livigno and Val d'Adentro before arriving here up at altitudes of 2,200 meters, it does create changes in the blood, the red blood cells. Estonian fan there, enjoying it so far.
So Niveltova of the Czech Republic to begin her challenge. Oh, how much do they wish that they still had Katarina Neumanova running for them.
Powerful start out of the stadium, all double poling power. It's a gentle incline, actually, this first 120, 130 meters before the steep climb round the back of the hill.
Li Hongzhui coming up to 3.95, and now from that point she's got just over 1,000 meters before she comes back into the stadium, Mike. So what's ahead of her there?
Well, coming towards the stadium, the big climb, well, we're coming up to the top of the 3 to the 4 kilometer, that's the high point almost, and it's undulating and mostly down back into the stadium, so easier descent into the stadium. And Bo has just gone through after 5 kilometers, I must say, looking exhausted second time out.
Just get a time for Bo through the stadium in 17 minutes 06.8. Bo Song of China, who started today's race, and just about getting halfway through the start list. Elena Kantonova for Kazakhstan, and all the Kazakhs who took time out to either start or increase their families. So actually we haven't seen the sort of performances that they showed us a few years ago for quite a while. Oksana Yatskaya fits that description absolutely exactly. This is a woman who in the 30-kilometer freestyle mass start at the last Olympic Games actually finished a quite respectable 15th. And if I take you back to the Oberstdorf Championships of 2005, she was actually 8th over 30 kilometers in today's classic stride and glide style. Nanikova. Well, it's a big occasion, but you have to stay concentrated, because the most important thing when you come out of the stadium here is to find that rhythm.
It is, and Yanikova, interestingly, in the summer, of course, these trails are marked down. She was saying she would jog around here with the ski poles in hand to simulate the technique up the steep climbs. And look at the exit from the start. She is absolutely on fire. I just worry a little that she's maybe not too enthused and dangerous. You can put too much out too soon, and you really do suffer in the last 3 or 4 kilometers. Valas keeping the momentum. You just sense the steepness of this climb, looking all the way back down the base of this hill, and it climbs further past this marker.
Hannah Brodin going pretty well, and looks as if she could be the quickest so far, and might just take it away from Natsumi. Hasn't quite got to the 1.85 kilometer mark, but that's a good start by the Swede, wearing bib number 32 from Borlänge, just 18 years of age. And now Keegan Randall. Well, Keegan Randall first came to, I think, everybody's attention as being a really good sprinter, basically, but now trying to extend her range. And 10 kilometers should be really possible for her. But is she a better freestyler than she is classic skier?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at this, the strength, and that's where Kicken is at her best, using that power, and that's where she is good in skating. I think she's slightly better in the freestyle than classic.
But Kicken, a World Cup winner, not this season, but last season in Rybinsk over freestyle. As soon as you've won a race like that, gives you huge confidence and self-belief. And has been up to Canada, to Canmore, to train with Chandra Crawford, amongst other things. And this is up the last big climb on the first loop. Remember, they do this 2 times, and then, as you said, Mike, there's a little undulation before, a bit of a plunge down to the stadium. Yeah,
good recovery to to get your breathing back, basically, before you exit the stadium on the second time round. And it's good to see the spectators actually out on the hill leading out of the stadium.
Well, the Polish representation, of course, all eyes will be on Justyna Kowalczyk, but Cornelia Marek at the age of 23 from the Katowice club, yet another one of the younger Poles who's inspired by Justyna. So there's Natsumi's time, and Li Hongzhui actually just looking at that time at 3.95 and 11 seconds between the Chinese and the Japanese. Back to the start. And Mike, Anna Olsen for Sweden from Östersund.
Good technique out there. She's dropping heavily down from the toes, getting as much momentum through the upper body.
Kamila Radlova getting ready, member of the Dukla Liberec Club, so big occasion to be racing on your own home snow. But for her, it's really her own territory. Before her, Aurore Quignet from Les Rousses, away for France. France, who've already had a bit of success, not in Europe, but over in Korea today, I think, Mike. Did they not win the biathlon relay?
They did. They won the mixed relay, so 2 women, then 2 men. And it's good to see that. The French team needed that boost. They've had some misfortune with illness and stomach problems and health issues. So now they're gold medalists as a relay team. That's going to lift their spirits.
And another of the Canadians here. This is Petty-Ann Jones. And Kamila Radlova, we just switched to her. Petty-Ann Jones actually not going bad. She's a Canmore resident. And, of course, next year... Ooh, now, there's a good example of someone in trouble.
That trouble is exactly where the wax underneath the ski isn't working at all. So she's edging, she's herringbone running, trying to get some purchase from the edge of the ski rather than the grip wax. That's so frustrating. When your wax slips back, you cannot get any purchase, and it absorbs your energy. You press down and it slips back. It's so irritating. Part of the deal, though, all the athletes are used to that in training or in races in their career, and you just have to have a strong mind to deal with it. And with the large, or even the height difference, 50 odd, 60 meters from the lowest point to the highest point, even that half a degree change in temperature can actually make a difference to the kick wax. Lena Anderson powering out of the start.
Yeah, Lena Anderson, very strong classic skier, but interesting to see how well she is, how fit she is. She was participating in the Olympics in Torino, 33rd, but she's a former classic world sprint medalist from Oberstdorf in 2005. She really does give some truth, sadly, for Lena, to the maxim that sport takes place between injuries and illness.
It's a relentless routine to prepare and train for cross-country skiing.
Svetlana Malahova for Kazakhstan, and at 31, one of the more experienced members. In fact, today, now starting her 7th World Championship challenge.
3 times Olympian as well. That's so much experience, vast experience. Although I think if she places in the top 20 today, that'll be a good result for Malahova.
From Sotkamo in Finland, this is Krista Latinmäki, just 18 years of age, one of the next generation. Of course, Magna Dahlin, who's made such an impression, the Norwegian who came over to the Finnish team and engendered spirit, and really under his guidance, the Finns, Koitinen and Saarinen, have had a fine old time the last few seasons.
They have, and you know, bringing in an 18-year-old into the magic of the Finnish team, I think that's a great thing to do. She will pick up all the good training ideas, methods, and just the discipline to be around those top athletes.
And Elena Kolomina still in command at 3.95, the climb up the very big hill. Hanna Broden for Sweden, still the fastest at 1.85 kilometers. And now really beginning to get to the racers who've started and shown good form in the World Cup races building up towards these championships. This is Laura Org from Spain. And this is a 22-year-old who just recently grabbed a bronze medal in the under-23 Worlds. And that was a notable achievement.
And, well, that's largely why she has made it here. We haven't seen much of her at the World Cups at all.
Yeah, it was in the individual free event behind Sylwia Jaskowicz of Poland, who's yet another promising racer who is here, and also Betty Nielsen from Norway. They took gold and silver. That Sylwia for Poland took the gold, and Nielsen took the silver, but that's a great performance from Laura Oak to take the bronze medal, because she took some really good scalps in that.
And it just shows, I mean, the conditions in Spain are good. They have the snow, they have the tracks.
Here is the Marathon World Cup champion, the reigning champion. And she has the distinction of not only racing a hell of a long distance, much longer than today, but also competing in a race with Katarina Neumanova in the Engadine Marathon last year. Katarina Neumanova made this sort of mini comeback. Jambayeva, though, very interesting to see whether she can be effective over the shorter distance.
Now, Jambayeva, to be brought in at this late stage in her season, she wasn't expecting to be here. I think she could be, you know, that magic, that chance, that one-off, where she's only had one previous World Cup experience. It could well be a great day for the Russian.
Well, they don't give the places out lightly, and here is Astrid Jakobsen. Now, this is going to be a real test, and I think a lot of people with a few nerves here. She had Achilles problems in the summer, operations, came back, annihilated Marit Bjørgen in the Nationals, but we were expected to see her in the World Cup build-up towards these championships, and they seem to have erred, Mike, on just saying, right, we're just going to keep this very gentle, not put her under a lot of physical pressure, and it's going to be interesting to see whether she can race competitively, because when you haven't been on the track vying with your international opponents, you can be, so to speak, a bit ring rusty.
You absolutely can. Just even the nerves of coming along to the stadium, as I mentioned earlier, the excitement, the buzz. You have to be experienced in those situations. Jakobsen, maybe, as you say, a little bit under-raced in that count.
Nivotova coming up to 3.5 kilometers, and you can see outside the time of Hanna Broden, who's made a very strong start, the teenage Swede, and she leads at the top of the first climb ahead of Kolomina Vita Yakimchuk. As you see in picture, well, we'll switch back to the start now for Masako Ishida. Olga Rosheva just on her way for Russia. Ishida, 28 years of age, and 11th just last weekend, Mike. Not everybody was there, but nonetheless, you can only beat the people who are there. She was 11th in the 10-kilometer classic in Val di Dentro in Italy.
It was brilliant. In fact, that was her best World Cup performance ever. So Ishida, on the back of that, she must be coming in today feeling pretty good, feeling very confident.
Yeah, Kowalczyk won that from Mariana Longa, who, as you know, Mike, I'm a big fan of the way that she's come back to racing, and it was Maric in third place, and there was 30 seconds separating them. It was a convincing victory for the tough Kowalczyk, but Longa, Maric, 30 seconds off. Shevchenko, interesting to see how she runs today, because again, I think she's had this particular fortnight or 10 days in her focus more than anything else. Sarah Renner was 41 seconds off the pace, so it's a little guide to what might happen today.
It is. My worry for Kowalczyk on this track, she's got the fitness, she's got the strength, but when it comes to the technical turns, this track may not suit Kowalczyk, as certainly Val di Dentro did.
You just saw Olga Tiagai start there, 2 times under 23 World Championship last year near Bolzano, and 62. Just to say, 61 Laurent Philippot, not able to start, not well enough. Katrin Zeller for Germany, and the stadium really ought to be full with being so close to Germany, so close to Poland. It will fill up, of course, as the weekend draws nearer. And Katarina Smutna, looking for her to start, number 63, racing for Austria, but actually born, what, about 10 kilometers from here?
Absolutely. So Smutna, and she has really improved her game recently. Back in last year, she wasn't able to place in the top 20, top 25, but much improved this year.
Yatskaya taking a couple of seconds out of Karin Moroder of Italy. Hanna Brodin 16 seconds behind now. So, as I said, you're now beginning to see the performances of the more seasoned brigade. And they're wearing 63. Behind there is Katarina Smutna representing Austria, member of the Saarfelden Club. And out of the gate, Sarah Renner of Canada. Of course, the same generation as the great Becky Scott, sadly retired. We could really do with Becky in for Canada. Hails from Canmore, 66, warming up here. Poya Muranen. And I haven't managed to put any money on her for the freestyle sprint. Got to do that because I think the performances we've seen from her in the last 14 days have been absolutely terrific. Winner of the freestyle sprint in Rybinsk, second just last weekend in Val di Dentro, looking confident. Actually, for me, Mike, looking the best I've seen her since she won the sprint title back in 2001. But to put this in perspective, she is a better freestyler than classic racer.
She is, and Magna Dallin has brought that confidence that she had when she was, what, 20 years old, brought it back. So she's, look at the dynamic start there. She's got the confidence, sparky, powerful, and it goes a long way. That extra 5% comes from self-confidence and self-belief.
She was a fantastic junior in 2001, the year that she won that senior title, because she actually mopped up no less than 2 gold medals and a silver over the 5K Classic. So she's not by any means useless over 10 kilometers classic style, and she's in good form. So you don't know, a good performance could be Steffi Böhler now for Germany. Steffi was 38th in Torino, but again, here's a racer who seems to have suddenly matured.
Absolutely has indeed. And I'm just looking, sorry, on the track, David, and Anna Olsen seems to be destroying the earlier set times at 3.95.
This is Teresa Juhog, the, what do they call her, the Duracell rabbit, because of her so distinctive style, this very high tempo that she can maintain over any distance. And although she's just 20, she comes here, of course, as the world bronze medalist over 30 kilometers in classic style. And again, another double junior world champion, yet to win in the World Cup, but she was third last year in Otapa. And if you can be third in Otapa, you can contend with the very best.
Shevchenko, the slender, the light body weight. Now that will suit the course profile today for Shevchenko. I was a little disappointed in Val di Dentro. I thought she might, the course there was very undulating, but she didn't place herself in the top 10.
Great shot there. You can get an idea of the meadows. If you go to the top of the hill, as you see them going out of the stadium, if you were to walk up to the top of that hill, then you can see the rest of the course right in front of you. Radlova, as we switch back, these are really the stars of the sport, and there's one of your favourites.
Yes, Petra Maric. She had planned to retire in the summer, actually last summer, and then came back, and she seems to have come back born again skier. She's really enjoying it, she's loving it, and second overall in the World Cup at the moment.
Yeah, victories in Kusamo, Davos in the sprints, and also in Otapa. Sprinting is really her forte, but boy, has she improved. As we said, she was just third last weekend. And now Lena Andersson coming up, and 14 seconds down on Anna Olsen, her Swedish teammate. Kristin Styrer just underway there. Kristin Styrer, 27 years of age, and of course the woman who suddenly turned it around by getting medals in Sapporo. More of that later. Marit Bjørgen. Now, how is she feeling at her very best, Mike? This is an absolute star racer.
Even the start there, David, there's a lack of confidence, although she knows how to pace these races. She's so experienced, but for me there's something missing. And there has been all season, and I think it is maybe confidence.
Well, it may be confidence, but of course, if you've had stomach upsets, and if they've been continuing over a number of days, there's a real problem there, because you become weak and maybe you don't eat as well and the energy levels go down. And anyway, we just wish her well, hope she has a good journey.
Absolutely, and maybe that calm start, maybe that's an indication that she is absolutely reading this thing better than most. A lot of the athletes have gone out hard up to 1.8 kilometers and have really tied up from then on in.
So 74, Mariana Longa, Verpi Koitinen already on her way. The Tour de Ski champion of the current campaign, but Mariana Longa, what a revelation she has been. Again, she's a woman who virtually retired, wasn't very happy with the coaching setup, came back, and since she's come back, it's just got better and better. And of course, Mariana Longa is a World Cup winner, won the 10-kilometer freestyle in Rubinks, second in Val di Dentro. But if anybody is going to win this race, well, they're going to have to go faster, harder and tougher than Justyna Kowalczyk, the World Cup number 3, coming in to this race. But she's only 26, and at the age of 24 she got a bronze medal in that 30-kilometer freestyle race behind the great Katarina Neumann-Over. And I remember that as she dropped down into the stadium looking over her shoulder, and Neumann-Over saw it and said, "I'll take you," and so she did. But that was a great bronze medal that she got.
Look at the focus here from Saarinen. She's almost hyperventilating before this one.
Last to start, but certainly won't be last to finish. Aino Kaisa Saarinen, who's really raised their game this year. 30 years of age. She's given the great Verpi Koitinen a real run for her money. And again, another Magda Dahlin star. She won the first 10-kilometer Classic World Cup race of the season. She was second in Davos at altitude, and in Otapa also the runner-up there, so that's a very good pedigree for today's race.
And oh, look at this, Jakobsen. We mentioned she's out of race practice, if you like, and that was a silly little mistake. Concentration.
Yeah, you just worry, though, when she's had that Achilles problem, that you don't want anything else to happen to her. And you can see Anna Olsen's time, and Astrid Jakobsen coming up the climb. Got to do this a second time around. And yeah, clearly unsettled. I'm wondering just how she's going to close in on Olsen, or if it's going to be ahead. I don't think it's going to be ahead after the fall she's had. She lost at least 10 seconds in that fall. And there you can see the damage chronometrically there for Jakobsen. So the 22-year-old Norwegian needs to just really hold this on track now. As you see, Olga Rotcheva coming up here and past the time already of Anna Olsen of Sweden. Let me take you back down the track, and Valentina Shevchenko, strong start, a second ahead of Poya Moranen, and also 3 seconds ahead of Steyr, but more relevantly, almost 4 seconds ahead of Anna Olsen, who's leading at 3.95 and also leading at 5 kilometers. Anna Olsen 12 seconds ahead of Lena Anderson and Svetlana Malahova.
This is a great 3.95 kilometers for Ishida. She's keeping the momentum. She's although she's totally fatigued, she's keeping the technique together. And boy, that confidence building result in Val di Dentro has really traveled with her to the World Championships.
Anna Olsen striding on here, trying to maintain that really strong start.
And there's Longa, Mariana Longa, just passing her now. She's got fresher legs, having well, completed 5 kilometers already, bib 44.
But Anna Olsen from Östersund, of course, the big boss of the Swedish cross-country outfit is the great Gunde Svan. Anna Olsen, seasoned campaigner, in her 30s, couple of Olympic Games, and was 10th in the Pragelato freestyle final, which was not a bad performance. But I suppose the one which she rused more than anything else was the 4th place in the Oberstdorf Sprint Classic final of 2005, the World Championships. That close to a medal.
Yeah, I think this is Olsen's going to be certainly up there. I think top 10, maybe even top 5 today. Gunde Svan has prepared them well for this.
Mariana Longa, who you just mentioned, Mike, has gone even quicker than Shevchenko. She's almost a couple of seconds up at 1.85 kilometers. Now, that journey takes them on the first climb, doesn't it?
It does.
Not as steep as the one up to 3.95, though.
3.95, that's the one with this one here. It's absolutely the longest. The climb up to 2 kilometers is similar, but it goes on for about 75 meters less. Jochen Bela trackside there, just giving the information, giving some encouragement.
I was just going to say, Mike, that even with all the winter clothing on, it looks slightly trimmer.
He must be peaking up for the World Champs.
Katarina Smutner for Austria, but part of her may be feeling Czech because she was born in this country.
Kowalczyk 4.9 seconds off the pace at 1.85 kilometers.
Koitinen 6 seconds off the pace, but I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Anna Olsen, who is really our pathfinder at the moment, that's 8 seconds behind Saarinen, who's gone quicker than ever. As you said, Mike, she really was positive out of the start gate.
She flew out of the start gate so psyched up, so motivated. But her performance last week in Italy was slightly concerning, down in 13th position for Saarinen.
But you see, Saarinen, she's got to have a huge... You see Moranen there having a little slip. And just gives you an idea. Unfortunately, the television pictures there, that gives you a slightly better indication of the steepness, but not totally.
And look at the far distance. You can see the climb goes on and on and on. But actually, when you're out there physically, it's an incredible climb. 45 meters in total climb in terms of height raised from the bottom of that hill to the top.
Just to finish my thought on Saarinen, of course, she's incredibly hungry. Well, they all are, but Saarinen's had the misfortune to finish 4th in 2 World Championships over the longest distance that the women race in in sort of the World Cup program or the World Championship program. 4th over the 30-kilometer classic distance at the last 2 World Championships. So I think she'll be determined to try and force her way onto the podium today. Now, 68, here she is, this little dynamo. They tried to change her racing style. She'll have none of it.
Absolute fight and determination, Johaug. Interestingly, I saw her being interviewed, well, only, half an hour before her race started, and she had all her warm-up gear on. And normally athletes don't really want to be talking to cameras before the race, but she was quite happy to do that.
And they've got Moranen, 3.95 kilometers. And Moran faster than Anna Olsen by 3.6 seconds, and Sarah Renner just about, and Teresa Johaug 5.5 off. That's okay, because remember, Moranen was racing at about the same pace as Koitinen.
Yeah, Shevchenko's just come through. Now look at that, 14 seconds. This course does suit her light body weight and the determination she's experienced, and she's hungry for this one, Shevchenko.
Well, I did say, Mike, that, you know, I had the feeling that she'd been preparing all season for this, and 10 kilometers is a race distance that Shevchenko has succeeded at on many occasions. Just thinking back to the World Cup, I can remember in Kusamo she's had successes over 10 kilometers, and in fact 4 victories in World Cup competition. And again, she's another racer who's often come close to the medals but actually has missed out when, you know, if I go back to Val di Fiemme, 2003, 6th in the World Championship 10K.
And Shevchenko, I think in all honesty, when you look at the backup, the wax technicians, the expertise that surround her, as compared to, say, the Norwegians, the Ukrainian does so well, often doesn't have the best glide factor. Steyr, she's there, 6.5 seconds.
Yeah, that's a very, very decent opening couple of climbs there by Steyr. Bjergen now. Well, we were hesitant, I think, the pair of us. She's obviously there. She's got a long way to go to get round to the timing.
It's competitive, though, David. It's good, and remember, it's just the first time round this track.
Well, it always used to be the case that Bjergen would turn the screw and wind it up on the second half of a race. But it worries me that, you know, when you see that sort of gap, 19 seconds, with the pace up front from the likes of Saarinen and Longer, Shevchenko, Kowalczyk and Moranen and Koitinen, that is a worry for me.
It is for Bjørgen. She's got to climb up this hill a second time. The segment down to the stadium is not so bad. Koitinen 4 seconds off the pace. She's back. Oh, look at her. She holds the tempo. She holds the technique so well, does Koitinen.
Yeah, apparently no back problems at the moment, but Longa now. What chance for her to get an Italian medal, -2, and Mariana Longa just emphasizing what a great season, the season of her life, and just a couple of boxes down from where we are looking out on this stadium is the great Stefania Belmondo, and I'm sure she's going to be really excited. This now Kowalczyk just grinding it out now, and this is where on a day like this the coaches are so important in the information they pass on to their racers.
Look at that, 6.5. She destroys the field on these climbs, but I do worry about the downhill segments for Kowalczyk. Saarinen, she's chasing down Kowalczyk. In fact, I think she's going to take some time out of Kowalczyk, maybe 5-6 seconds.
Yeah, one thing, one racer that I haven't picked up on for a while is Petra Madic, who is certainly not showing up on the leaderboard by any means at the moment.
Look how close this is. Saarinen to Kowalczyk, it's just over half a second.
Look at the difference, though, in the two races. This higher, more fluent tempo, whereas, you know, there's this sort of brutal, grinding stride that Kowalczyk has.
Yeah, Saarinen's almost running there. She's and that's what it's like. You're pressing down on your poles and you're jumping onto each ski to try and get the grip wax.
So all the leaders are through the 3.95 kilometer part, going on to the halfway point, and Petra Madic there, you can see 33 seconds down, so that's an awful start. Now I don't know if she's got ski problems, Mike. I can't believe she's that far back.
I'm surprised for Madic, and that'll be very disappointing. The positive side, she's got 5 seconds to move from 13th up to 9th.
Yeah, that's a real disappointment, I have to say. Katrin Zeller. Steffi Böhler was a long way off the pace. Anna Olsen, as you can see, on her way, Anna Olsen, to the second of the big climbs on her final lap.
Zeller's keeping the pace on there, but the Germans women team, they've had some issues this season. They haven't well, look at the slipping there as well. They haven't had a particularly great season by their standards, and Nystad as well wanted to compete today, but just feeling so flat, so tired. That's good for Zeller though, coming up to, well, passing the 6.8 kilometers. Needs to keep the momentum. It's easier from this point in, down back into the stadium. The worst of the big climbs she's almost completed.
Anna Olsen coming, as you say, towards the finish, and Anna Olsen and Lena Andersson, two Swedes, separated by 16 seconds almost. Lena Andersson 48, so starting a couple of minutes behind, but Anna Olsen, that's a pretty good effort, you know. It's not sadly going to be worth a medal, but that is a really good effort, and she was out there to be shot at, because she really was, for much of the middle section of the race there, the pathfinder. She was indeed. Interesting just watching Kowalczyk, Longa, Kowalczyk, and then Saarinen coming through the halfway point. It's almost as if there's still 30 seconds separating each of them. They're looking over at each other. The fight is really on at the back. Yeah, Moranen in picture, 6.85 kilometers, and Moranen actually was 30 seconds off. Now Sarah Renner's gone through as the quickest, and Moranen was about 8 seconds up as she went through the stadium, so we would expect Moranen to maintain that advantage, and certainly looks a lot more fluent than Sara Renner did.
Yes, she does. She still, when you can keep hold of your technique, the efficiency stays in there. When it starts moving around, or you maybe even adopt the running technique, you're wasting energy.
So Moranen, and behind her, of course, Shevchenko we'll see next, and then Steirer and Koitinen and Longa and Kowalczyk and Saarinen all to come through. Back to the finish of the race here. And the aerial wire camera, that's going to bring us some fantastic pictures before these championships are over, I'm sure, particularly on the mass start races and the sprints.
Well, Radulova, she said she wanted a top 15 today. That's her ultimate best hope. I'm not quite sure she's going to achieve that, but for now it's good.
And now in picture, Valentina Shevchenko from Dynamo Kiev, 33 years of age. Sometimes you sense that she races a little sparingly. She picks and chooses her races.
She does indeed, and wise move there. She stepped out of the prepared track, the double cut track, more perches on the softer snow, so clearly she's having waxing or grip problems, and Therese Johaug did exactly the same, jumped out of the track right in behind Shevchenko.
Well, anything better than 6 for Shevchenko would be her best ever, in numerical terms, her best ever or highest finish in a World Championships.
Look at this, Steirer has passed Petra Madic, gained 30 seconds. Petra needs now to get into the wake of Steirer to help her game, but Petra's looking a little tired there compared to Steirer.
Yeah, Steirer, of course, world silver medalist over 30 kilometers in classic style in Sapporo in Japan, and also a bronze medalist in the pursuit, also a bronze medalist in the pursuit back in Oberstdorf. So 3 world championship medals individually to her. And those medals in Sapporo were really important, having finished 3 times 4th, Steirer, at the Olympic Games, and one of those 4th place finishes, of course, was in the 10-kilometer classic race. How frustrating to finish 4th once, let alone 3 times.
Oh, absolutely destroying. Just Petra Madic in the background there. Steirer managed to stay in the track way past the marking number, but Petra had to step out early, so she's clearly got waxing problems.
Shevchenko 13.5 seconds up on Steirer, 28 ahead of Moranen. Therese Johaug 31 off the pace, Sara Renner 37, Anna Olsen in the clubhouse 38 seconds off the pace. And did you say Olsen wanted? No, Olsen wasn't top 15. Well, if she gets top 15, it'll be a good result.
That's right, and Radulova said that as well. The Czech Republic, their favourite or their best hope for a medal here.
Koitinen, look at that. That's the typical racing style. Now, she's taken on board the information, and for Koitinen to be within a second of Shevchenko, I think spells real danger for Shevchenko, because I just want to go back. Koitinen was 11 seconds down on Saarinen, and she was 3 seconds down on Shevchenko at the 5-kilometer mark. So up the first climb of 1.85 kilometers, Shevchenko has been closed on, which means that Koitinen's pushing.
Koitinen, and she's the ultimate pacer. She knows how to press the accelerator and at the right time. Mariana Longa, she's just been like turbocharged from the word go.
Kowalczyk, look at this, Mariana Longa and Kowalczyk 0.9. And what a race we've got here now. Longa, Kowalczyk, Koitinen 11 seconds. Having put Koitinen in perspective, now you can see that Shevchenko and Koitinen have got 11 seconds, and Saarinen trying to join in the fun here, vying for that elusive World Championship medal. And it's very good for Saarinen to have Kowalczyk in her sights.
Well, and there you are. That's the damage. 3 seconds. When you've got the athlete ahead and you know you're closing in psychologically, it's good news. And Kowalczyk not quite as good in the downhill section, so I think Saarinen's going to close more.
Well, in fact, looking at it, Saarinen through 6.85 with an advantage of 3 seconds over Longer, 3 seconds over Kowalczyk. Now have a look at this situation. Saarinen last weekend was 49 seconds behind Kowalczyk, and now you can see at the moment there's a very different race pattern in Aino Kaiser Saarinen's head.
Saarinen looked so tired on Saturday. In this distance, she was exhausted, didn't have the spark at all.
Longer and Kowalczyk over the last weekend were separated by 12 seconds. Today, there's barely a second between them. So Aino Kaiser Saarinen bidding for the first gold medal of these championships for Finland, and indeed herself. So now this is fascinating now to see this final stage now.
Rocheva, she's one of these athletes that really extends her glide, pushing the knee so far forward to cover as many meters as possible. She'll just get the lead time ahead of Olsen, I think. She has to keep pressing though. Yep, she'll just do it.
And whilst that's happening, I can tell you that actually Steyrer now is losing time to Shevchenko at 8.15 kilometers. And Ishida takes the advantage.
That's so impressive from the Japanese athlete. Form coming good at the right time. She showed that in Italy last week.
Ishida quicker than Sara Renner, quicker than Rocheva or Anna Olsen. And Olga Tiergai, well, we highlighted her earlier on, but the Russians have not figured in this race.
No.
And we'll have to find out what that is, because if it's a question of just the competition's too tough, or whether they have had not the best of skis today. I suspect that they found the competition a bit tough.
They have, but if, you know, remembering back to the 70s, the 80s and the 90s, the Russian team, especially in the classic technique, they just dominated the world field.
So I can tell you that the Kowalczyk's gone through 8.15 kilometers, and she's still being shadowed by Longer. Koiten is still 11 seconds down. She has made some time. She was just looking at Kowalczyk. No, actually, she hasn't made any time. She's exactly where she is. Shevchenko, 13 seconds behind Saarinen. Saarinen now 5.6 seconds ahead of Kowalczyk. Now that is a gain. So just as you're seeing the picture of Katrin Zeller coming in, Saarinen is pushing on for gold.
Oh, well, that's in the, I think it was 3 seconds. It's 5.6, and that's after the very fast downhill segment. She's pulled another 2 seconds back off Kowalczyk.
Katrin Zeller trying to take the lead away from Masako Ishida of Japan. That's a very good run, Mike, by Masako Ishida. We haven't seen that much of her, but all credit to her. I mean, that is a really good effort.
That's going to stand the test, I think, here, David. It's going to be a top 10 finish, I think, for the Japanese. That is well respectful.
There she is in the big chair, introduced by Jurka Paul.
Well done.
Yeah, just 28 years of age. Great to see her enjoying herself and having this moment here in Liberec at the Nordic Ski World Championships.
Well, I think that seat is going to change a further 9 times before we get the real true winner.
Sara Renner of Canada outside Ishida's time. So Ishida taking a lot of really good sculpts, just whizzing through her World Championship record. In Sapporo, Ishida was 13th in the 30-kilometer classic. That was a pretty good performance. I just wonder whether she might just get a higher placing. Could she be top 10?
I think so.
10, 11, 12, somewhere there?
I think it's going to be that bracket, maybe 10th position.
Yeah, personal best, possibly Smutner. No, another one not to make it.
She started well, Schmutner, but that is the difficulty with this track. If you push it too hard, you do suffer later.
Now Muranen coming in to challenge Ishida, should take the lead here. Double poling down now, using her sprinting prowess. Well balanced.
Wonderful balance and absolute strength through the core, the middle part of the body, bending the knees, dropping the arms through, and it was worth it. 2.4 seconds.
Yeah, I'm just going to try and check out something here, Mike. Ishida and Moranen were separated by just less than a second, really, at 8.95 kilometers. So a decent finish by Moranen. Just found a little bit extra.
Very powerful finish indeed. And Shevchenko, she's faded actually. She started very strong.
Yeah, but she was well ahead with just over a kilometer to go. I mean, she had a big advantage of something like 43 seconds over Moranen, I should say, or Pöja Manninen, as she was before she got married. Of course, the younger sister of the great Hannu Manninen, the Nordic combined star, who's now embarked on a commercial pilot's career, or at least he hopes to. Still studying. Shevchenko clearly in the lead, 35 seconds, but you've got to put this into perspective. Shevchenko would be at least 14 seconds off the medals, off Kowalczyk, and further back from Mariana Longa, or indeed Saarinen.
Well, Saarinen's just extending the lead at 8.95 kilometers. 10 seconds now ahead of Kowalczyk.
And Johaug, that's a loss of time there. Found that pretty hard. And Steyr, well, the rhythm's there, but the power has ebbed away.
The power has totally depleted, but that's the way you want to run the race. You don't want anything left in this final stage. But when it comes to arm power, Steyr is not the strongest, and you want a double pole, single leg kick with the absolute drop power.
Well, a kilometer ago, there was something like 17 seconds between them, and in favor of, I have to say, of Shevchenko. So Steyr with still about 10 strides to go to the line, and the differential 17 seconds. Didn't lose anything, didn't make anything. But Steyr in the top 10 at the moment, of course, in second place, but still Kowalczyk, Koitunen, Longa, Saarinen to come, Petra Madic, who will have not enjoyed this.
I feel a little sorry for Madic. Just when she wanted it most, it's left her a little.
Koitunen now. Koitunen 4 seconds ahead of Shevchenko with a kilometer to go. So good finish, strong finish. But was it Koitunen's fast finish or Shevchenko's fading, I should say? Mariana Longa. What about this, Mike? The comeback girl is going to get a World Championship medal. Look at that. Surely 12.9 seconds goes into the lead there ahead of Koitunen, and the two dangers out, of course, are Kowalczyk and Saarinen. And here is Kowalczyk and Longa, and Kowalczyk separated only by 2 seconds. Last weekend it was 12 seconds, and when I say 2 seconds, that was just about a kilometer ago. 28.12, 28.13. Longa's done it. She's bitten back, and Kowalczyk will not get the gold and will not keep or make a hat-trick of 10-kilometer wins, and that is a big turnaround for Mariana Longa. Now Saarinen and Longa separated by 8.3 seconds a kilometer ago, and once again it's pretty close, but Saarinen is going to make it and become the champion by 4.2 seconds. Aino Kaisa Saarinen lost the start, first in the ranking, and first to be congratulated by Verpi Koitunen, who actually finishes in the unenviable position of 4th. Gold to Finland, silver to Italy, bronze to Poland.
Well, Saarinen, you could see the emotion there. It means so much to her, and from beginning to end she gave absolutely everything, nothing left at all there, and it's just about emotion now.
Yeah, and having been 4th in those 30-kilometer mass start classic races, I should say, in Oberstdorf and Sapporo, and missing out on the medals. Now, for the first time, she has a championship medal, but not just a championship medal, she's got the championship gold medal, Mike.
She has. I mean, that was a wonderful performance. You could say a slight advantage going absolute last. She could see ahead of her Kowalczyk and Mariana Longa, and boy, did they battle it out. There wasn't much give between any of them. And the importance of this, the hard, endless hours of hard training that go into getting this title.
Well, this is the moment for her. She's for a long time been one of the best skiers on the circuit, but for so much of that time until this season, she's been in the shadow of Verpi Koitinen. You know, when she won in Holmenkollen in 2007, that was really a high point for her in terms of the World Cup. But now she's brought all that experience to bear and has got this World Championship gold. She comes from Hollola, hope I pronounced that right, in Finland. And it's a great moment for her. Finland, Aino-Kaisa Saarinen taking the gold medal ahead of Mariana Longa getting the silver. I have to say I'd have loved to get her the gold, and she only missed out by 4 seconds, but it's still a triumph. And Kowalczyk, well, another bronze medal, but she's got so much more to give. And although you're looking at the lower rankings here, Mike, let's just consider Shevchenko, decent stab at it at 5th.
Yeah, very good. And it just really, it was fading towards the end for Shevchenko.
Moranen 7th, solid. She's in good form. Ishida 8th. That for me is the standout performance.
For me too. She had that good result back in Italy just, what, 6 days ago, and she's brought that positive feeling here. Well done to the Japanese in 8th position.
Indeed, and Sara Renner actually looked as if she was really tiring. I know she's a minute 16th off, but that's top 10. And remember, of course, her sights are absolutely very much towards the Vancouver Olympics. Now, we haven't talked about our young lady, have we? Fiona.
Well, there she is, 68th position. She said if she could make 5 from the bottom, she'd be happy, and well, she's done that. She's done very well out there as a first major competition experience.
Well, Mike, you could say that the race really, in large measure, went to form. Saarinen, Longa, Kowalczyk, Koitinen, they've really been the headliners. And, you know, then Shevchenko for the championships. But Marit Bjørgen, as we said, you know, we were concerned. And she's way down. She's down in 16th, 1 minute 38, so she lost an awful lot in the second half. And Petra Maric, 15th. Now, Petra will be disappointed with that. She had expected certainly a top 8, top 7. Well, a lot to come. There's our little home there. Well, one of those tiny little boxes. Actually, it's not that tiny. We could have a house party inside this cabin, I tell you. But lots of congratulations around, and obviously there'll be reflections, but a great way to start for Aino-Kaisa Saarinen. And remember, she comes here as the best female cross-country skier in the world. And now she's got a World Championship gold, and I think Sandra Spitz might be about to ask her how she feels.
Aino-Kaisa Saarinen, you missed the Tour de Ski victory, but now the World Champion is your title. You must be happy.
I'm more than happy. This is my dream. I always wanted to win in the World Championship, and I did it.
Some emotions are coming up, but can you give us some words about your race today?
The plan was I wanted to compete from the victory. Nothing else matters, and from the beginning I felt very strong, and all the time in the end I was just going for the gold.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
I will.
Well, and I think, like, when she started out of the gate, you actually commented how purposeful she looked, how aggressive, big attack.
She was so on a mission. The mindset, the hyperventilation, the focus at the start was everything for Saarinen.
Justina Kowalczyk came here as one of the favourites and ended up with the bronze medal, but she's got much more to give over the next 10 days, and she's a force at virtually every race she starts in. Mariana Longa, well, I just think a superb triumph, a World Cup winner this season, and now a World Championship silver medalist. She is very much the #1 Italian of the moment, certainly at distance racing. And there's the start we were just talking about for Aino-Kaisa Saarinen. Absolute dynamite. She went last. She had the advantage of getting all the splits on her opponents, but she was the mistress of these tracks. 10-kilometer classic style, first gold medal in her life. And as you saw from the interview, pretty well overcome with the occasion of what she has just achieved. Well, tomorrow it'll be the turn of the men in the 15-kilometer classic, but today the Nordic combiners get underway in the afternoon. The mass start 10-kilometer race, followed by the ski jumping. Mike Dixon and myself, David Goldstrom, will be with you for that. ski@infovoice.de is our email address. We'd love to hear from you throughout the Nordic Ski World Championships, but it's time for us to go and have a coffee or something stronger. We'll be back in the afternoon. For now, a very good afternoon to you from the